Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Everybody good?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Maintain.
All right, let's jump right into it. So, welcome to another team meeting where we distract you from your current story, dismantle your current belief systems, and inspire you to change your mind, which will then inspire you to change your life. We appreciate the followers, but more importantly, please continue to like, comment, and share. Our mission is to serve. So the more people we get in front of, the better. So like, comment, most importantly, please share. So what's the focus for today? So this week I was in this meeting and it made me think about something that I refer to as distance. I was in a meeting this week and it made me think about something that I refer to as distance. Here's what happened. So the facilitator tasked us with responding to a series of questions where our responses will come up as anonymous, right? So say I dropped the link in the chat and I asked y'all, what's your favorite color? And y'all type it in. We would see 4 answers on the screen, but I wouldn't know who was who, right? Participant 1, 2, 3, 4, red, blue, pink, green. But when we did this, I knew from our breakout groups that followed, everybody knew my answers. They didn't know anybody else's answer, but everybody knew mine. The questions focus on our plans for an upcoming break that we have. And here were the reactions and responses, mine to theirs, my reaction to their responses, and their reaction to my responses. I'm going to be respectful, so I'm going to speak in a little bit of a code, but there's a break coming up, or some of us are in already, that a lot of people are going to experience in the next month or so. Right? There's some kind of break that happens every year that's coming up. So when I saw theirs and they saw mine, like I could see their faces on the screen when my responses come. It's like WT blank, right? Why is he saying this? Why is he saying that? And their responses look like this. I'm chilling. I'm going to do absolutely nothing. I'm throwing my laptop away. I'm going to sleep in. I'm going to binge watch Netflix shows, right? Because they get a break. But my responses, all very similar to this. I'm going to disconnect from this place, yes. But I'm going to work even harder on myself because those that work while everybody else is chilling create distance and shine when we all come back, right? For example, we all in school together and school is out at 3 o'clock. The student that goes home and does his or her homework and studies and does their projects and network and all that other kind of stuff over the summer break or over the weekend break is going to be far ahead of the person who comes back and they chilling, because the person who was chilling, they only do what they're obligated to do. So we see all this chilling, do nothing, throw my laptop away. I can't wait to just do nothing. And then you saw my response where I'm going to do more. All right. So a quick note. I used to have a their response mentality. I did what I was obligated to do, and the other parties gave me what they were obligated to give me. We kept that relationship, and it's a never-ending relationship until I end it. We're here today on this platform, and all of the things that we do at Game 7 would not be here if I did not shift to, for the sake of this example, to a my response mentality. Right? And for those of you who may have a break coming in the near future, if you're just going to chill and do nothing and binge watch Netflix and sleep in, I challenge you to find your Game 7. Because when you do only what you're obligated to do by somebody else, you put a cap on yourself, right? And when that person, that group, that company, that business, that entity gives you time off and you take that time off, you will never be able to distance yourself from that group, that business, that company, that corporation, that entity. So if you ever want to get some kind of freedom in your life, if you ever want to get some kind of time to do whatever you want to do, you have to find out what is your game seven. What is going to shift you from taking a their response approach to a my response approach? All right. So let's talk about people that do more. People that do more. All right. So this is Dr. Myron Rowe. And this week he was nominated, no, not nominated, inducted to the Academic All-America Hall of Fame. There was 4 people, him, Adam Vinatieri, and 2 other people that didn't have names that stuck with me. But I highlight Myron because Justin and I went to school with him in high school, and we played football with him. And now that I'm older and I look back, I noticed that he was a great leader, and he taught me something that I'll talk about at the end of the slide. So we used to have 6 a.m. workouts at school. I guess it was easier than a typical school 6 a.m. workout because we were already there. We just had to wake up, walk to the gym, boom. But every single day, we had 6 a.m. workouts. When we were all walking to the gym, which is early because the workout starts at 6, so you got to be there and get prepared to start at 6. So when we were walking, he would already be on the field with his trainer or his brother. I can't remember who it was, running in a deep sweat every single day, right? Way before anybody even got to practice, he was there first, by himself, no lights on, in the dark, on the field, just working. Keep in mind, this was a dude who was like sophomore year, he wasn't even ranked. And then by the time he graduated, he was the #1 player in the country, right? So 6 a.m. workouts, he was first. And then also always talk about how he was first to breakfast. In high school, nobody went to breakfast. I went every day. Myron went every day. And I always talk about how he would help me with my work and just tell me about the things that he was working on. Like he took all these classes that I never took. He was taking college classes throughout his entire high school career. He would help me a lot with work. But he was always first to breakfast, always first to the workouts. He did more before everybody else. He did more and he did it before everybody else. Remember that for the next slide. But he taught me that a leader may not have any followers yet. Because I know KG always talks about how Frank Gore was that guy when he played with the Niners. He would be there at practice early, doing all his drills. He would stay after doing all his drills by himself. But then throughout the season, by the end of the season, he would have all the backs out there with him, right? So Frank was a leader, even though he didn't have any followers. Myron was a leader, even though we chose not to follow him, right? Because the strongest leaders don't have followers. The strongest leaders lead other leaders, right? And at that time, at that age, with the things we were taught or we were not taught, we chose not to make those sacrifices. And now, look at him today. He's an academic Hall of Fame, academic All-American Hall of Famer, right? He's a doctor and he got all of these other great things going on. But that's something that meeting made me think about. He's somebody who did more before everybody else, all right? So I noticed the people's faces when they saw my responses, right? And I had some communication with some of them when we did our breakout rooms after the fact. So when a leader walks into the room, number one, the followers feel intimidated. Why is he doing so much extra? Why is he always so serious? Why does he think he's so special? Or why does he XYZ? Right? The followers feel intimidated. The people that do what they're obligated to do, they're intimidated. The snakes feel threatened. Right? I wish I could do what he could do. Right? Or he's a threat because he's exposing the system. Or he's not making it, I can no longer chill because he's bringing up the temperature. He's not a thermometer, he's a thermostat. So the snakes feel threatened. And then finally, the future leaders feel inspired. So when you go on the extra mile, more often than not, people are going to be threatened by you or they're going to be intimidated by you. But a few people, sometimes it's one, sometimes it's none, they're going to be inspired. But that's why there are always way more followers than there are leaders. All right. So leadership isn't about position, it's about influence. The leader on the team can be the third string quarterback, doesn't have to be the starter. It used to be. They don't really do this anymore, but that's why they would have that old head who played in the league for 15 years, keep him on the team, right? Because of his leadership and his influence. It doesn't have to be his position. So therefore, we are all leaders because we all influence people in some form or fashion. And we become a better leader by influencing more people. And we do that by adding value to people. So leadership is about influence and adding value. So back to the more and before concept. So leaders do more than other people before other people do it, right? We spent a lot of time over the past years developing social emotional learning. And now all of a sudden, due to COVID, all schools across the country, they want to do social emotional learning, which is great. That's good for us. It's good for people that get to learn it because it's important. But we were doing more before, generally speaking, the rest of the country in this regard. Leaders believe in themselves more and before other people do. Marvin knew what he was doing. That's how he went from unranked to number one in the country. There's no way you getting up at 4, 3, whatever time he got up to go out there in the dark by yourself to run around and do drills on air for hours on end before going to practice with everybody else, right? Plus your college level courses. He believed in himself more than and before everyone else. Leaders set expectations for themselves more than and before everyone else. So we got doing more, believing more, and setting expectations more and before. Leaders make commitments to themselves more than and before everyone else. All right, noticing the concept here, more and before. Always remember, leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence, right? If you look at the 3 men on the screen, none of them are doing what they did that made them culturally relevant anymore. But still, every day we feel their impact, right? Cap did more than before. Now everybody take a knee. Now they done changed the rules, all that kind of stuff. But he only had one homie with him in the beginning, if I remember right, Eric Reed, who was with him. Nobody else was willing to do what he was willing to do. He also had a bigger purpose. He wasn't tripping off football no more. He was inspired by something. Malcolm X, we all know. They attempted to pay him off, get him off his case, all this kind of stuff. He refused to let up, right? Y'all saw last year in the summer, still the same fight. He was doing more and before, right? And if you're football savvy, you know more or less Ray Lewis is known as one of the greatest leaders of all time in all sports. Okay? So key, many leaders are trained leaders with a career. But we're here to help you become a transformational leader with a calling, right? So people with a career, they do what they're obligated to do. When they don't have to do anything, they don't do anything. When they have to do something, they do it. It's their career. They do just enough to keep their career, right? Even to shine. And unless you got some super sweet career that's custom made for you, 9 times out of 10, if you keep it G with yourself, you would rather be doing something else. Okay? Even if it's the same thing, but just on your own time. Okay? So that is a trained leader. You were trained to do what you do. But when you have a calling, you're known as a transformational leader. And here's the difference. So a trained leader, number one, a trained leader, they know how to lead, right? I learned from this book. I learned from this course. I learned from this school, whatever the case may be. This is how I'm going to do it. A transformational leader, they know why they're leading. So we have how and why. Okay? Trained leaders are liked. Cool. Transformational leaders are contagious. They bleed through people. Trained leaders influence today, Sunday. Transformational leaders influence today and tomorrow. All right? Temporary, I don't want to say permanent, but long term. Temporary versus long term. Trained leaders ask people to follow. Come on, y'all. Let's do this. I'm gonna go first. Y'all go next. A transformational leader asks people to make a difference. Yo, you don't gotta follow me and do what I do, but I'm gonna ask for you to give all you got so you can add value to the team and make a difference. Don't just do what I do. Do your own thing. Trained leaders love to lead. This is a big one right here. They love that position. They have positional authority, right? They love to be in charge. They're the they're the little kid that was bullied and now they're an adult and now they're the manager, right? The little kid that was bullied and now they're an adult and now they're that police that doesn't know how to control his power, right? They love to lead. A transformational leader, they love the people they lead. That's the boss that knows your name. That's the boss that knows your son's name. That's the boss that knows your schedule. That's the boss that cares more about you than he cares about the work. And that's also the boss that you would do more for because he ain't tripping off the job, he's tripping off you. Trained leaders love to lead. Transformational leaders love the people. Trained leaders are trained, right? You learn how to do this job, but you're still coming out the same person that you were coming in. A transformational leader is the same, but they're a transformed person, right? That's why one thing that I do not like is when parents, guardians, aunts, uncles, teachers, administrators, coaches, they tell young people that they can do whatever they want to do as long as they don't give up. But that adult, that teacher, that coach, that administrator, that parent, that guardian, that uncle, they gave up long ago. So that person is teaching and not modeling. They cannot transform somebody because they have not went through the process themselves. And this is as simple as a mindset shift. It's only one decision. This can happen in 1 second, but you have to believe it. And it's only a decision if it's followed by action. So a trained leader, they help people. Cool. Everybody needs help. A transformational leader, they help people change. So when you help people, they're going to continue to need your help. It's like how they said, if you fish for people, you got to keep giving them fish and keep fishing. As opposed to if you change them and teach them how to fish, they can feed themselves. You can go and do what you do, and they all work together, teach to somebody else, and get bigger and bigger and bigger. So you increase your reach and increase your impact when you're transformation. But if you're just helping them, more or less, you're kind of keeping them stagnant. It's like the helicopter parent who never lets their son or their daughter struggle. You're helping them, right? You're training them, but you're not transforming them. Trained leaders have a career. They do what they're obligated to do. Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and they out. Between 5:01 and 8:59, they ain't doing too much to break that 9 to 5 cycle. They have a career. And that don't mean that they BSing on their career either. They could be giving it all they got. But they're doing themselves a disservice. Like, for example, and I'm going to talk to this person too when I get the opportunity. But I know somebody who was one of the best people I ever saw do what she do. And she told me this week, I'm doing my 30 years. I'm getting all of my pension. I'm getting all of my retirement. I just SMH, shook my head. She doesn't understand the gift that she has, and she doesn't have to wait 30 years to get what she wants to get. And lastly, trained leaders impact a few. Just at the job, just in their office, just on their team. The impact can be through the roof, but there's a set amount of people. A transformational leader, they impact many people. So a career in a few. You're dominating your office. But that's not the person who's going to be the CEO. That's not the person who's going to be the chairman. Because if they're transformational, they'll dominate this office. They'll dominate that office. They'll dominate this office. They'll dominate that office. They'll dominate this office. And they're moving up. They're moving up. They're moving up. They're moving up. And then eventually, they're in charge of all the offices. They transform. And what I want to highlight that was relevant from the meeting and why my responses were different than other people who were in the meeting with me is because in that capacity, a lot of them have a career. I have a calling. People will always tell me, younger people, Malcolm, you need to stop being a teacher. You need to be a motivational speaker and a therapist. You need to be a motivational speaker and a therapist. F this math S. That's what they used to tell me. I don't want to do nothing until you talk to me. But if you talk to me, I will do anything. I will do anything. And they kept telling me, they kept telling me, they kept telling me. Then I would leave, right? So something called me to do the things that we're doing today. And my goal is not just to impact people that I see every day, that I see for this 10-month span, that I see for this 8-hour session. My mission is to do that and repeat somewhere else, 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 repeat somewhere else. You know, kind of like how LeBron, every team, every city that he goes to, it completely transitions. Right? People follow him. He made it cool for fans to jump ship. It's regular now. Right? Transformation. So a trained leader, they have a career and they impact a few. So since it's just a career, right, they do what they're obligated to do, so they limit their impact because it's just a career. But when it's a calling, you shoot to impact many. So what's the solution? How do I graduate from trained to transformational? Well, number one, most importantly, find your passion. What were you called to do? So contrary to belief, passion is not something that you are just born with. You might be introduced to something tomorrow that you love more than anything else that you've ever done. So finding your passion, it's like dating, right? Think of your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, your wife, whatever kind of relationship you set up. And if you're not in one now, think of the person that you like to love the most. You didn't know that from the beginning, right? We've also seen somebody we were attracted to, talk to them, they look real attractive, but then they open their mouth, you was like, no. Then you tried again with somebody else, they were attractive, then you talked to them, you was like, dope. Then you went on a date, it was cool. But then things got a little, they started bluffing in the middle, or you lost the juice, y'all didn't make it to date number 2. Then you tried it again with somebody else. Then y'all made it to date number 3, date number 4. But then the first bad day, y'all didn't make it. But then you met this other person. They were attractive, conversational, intelligent, financially literate, all these other kind of things. Date 1, date 2, date 3, date 4, boom, and then you're with them. And now you're in this passionate, loving relationship. But you did not know that from the beginning. Very, 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 very rarely is the person that you're just super attracted to in the beginning, does that turn out to be the person that you are with in the long run. Right? So your passion is like dating. You got to try different things. And whatever you can do through the turmoil, that's what you do. Right? We're all educated in some form or fashion. And being in education drives us crazy. Right? But when we had this day with these young men, something clicked for us. It's like, yo, we can do this. We don't need nobody else to tell us what to do. See all this joy from these young, well, I don't know if you can tell from the picture, but that was a life-changing day for me. Like, yo, this is it. I'm going to dive into this. But I was just trying different stuff. Y'all was just trying different stuff. We kind of stumbled into it. When we first started teaching or administration or whatever you want to call central officing, we didn't know we was going to stumble into this. We just were trying different things. So if you don't have a passion, you're not doing enough. You got to read more. You got to watch more videos. You got to get out there. You got to network and find out what is something that you can do no matter what. on the good days, the bad days, the regular days. And your relentless pursuit will inspire other people to follow you. Right? So just by us doing these things, we always talk about it every week. We get a text about, I was in a super bad place. I was going to quit my job, but doing that activity with y'all re-inspired me. Or I never knew that these kids were so bright, but once y'all came in here, y'all inspired us to change the system to get them to do that again. So just by doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it, people are going to follow you in due time. Like Myron now, he's like a cultural icon, more or less. But nobody was following him at our little school. Now he's getting recognition all across the world because he kept doing it. He kept doing it. He kept doing it. He kept doing it. And it's kind of more or less why the NFL kind of blackballed him. Ain't no way in hell he couldn't have been on nobody's team as at least as a special teamer. Just for his leadership alone and his intelligence alone. You know? But he chose to come in late. I think he missed the draft because he was at Oxford, and there was a lot of sacrifices he made for football because of the kind of person that he was committed to being. But he kept pursuing it, and now people follow him and people know about it. So find your passion. And once you find that passion, use all of your time to change other people's situations. Don't make it about you. So once you know why, you'll figure out how. So I'll be quiet and open it up to you fellas.
Yeah, that was amazing. I think the biggest thing that resonated for me was the last thing you just said, is how can I figure out how to serve others, right? So in moments of struggle, in moments of triumph, where we gotta really dig deep, we often always think about ourselves in those times, and that's when we suffer, right? Um, morning. But the times when we're going through something, but we're still thinking of others, and those are the reasons because we're doing things for other people. Other people are counting on us. Then that suffering turns into struggling, and that's something that's extremely relevant, I believe, because most people are suffering out here because they think it's just about them, right? And if you're gonna find your passion, do love doing it, but it's because you're serving someone else or you're doing something that's bigger than you. So I think a lot of times we can get in our own way in terms of our egos and realizing that, like, once I start to realize it's not just about me and it's what I can contribute, what I can serve, what I can give to others, then you kind of have a mindset shift because it's not you realize it's not just about you anymore.
What else y'all got, Jess, KP?
So one thing I will say is that you touched on it a little bit earlier when you say you have to be addicted to what you do. You gotta be fully committed no matter who is in it, right? And a lot of times you look at different things in history, right? When you look at Georgetown, you look at Jim Jones in Georgetown, and you wonder, like, yo, how is it that people follow this man to drink, drink the Kool-Aid, right? Or even to come out there for such a long time. But that's because he was so adamant in what he did, right? He did it every single day, did it every single morning. He always preached it. He lived by everything that he did preach, and eventually you'll get that following, and you'll get the people that want to follow behind you. So it's I don't want to use that as a bad example. I mean, of course, that was negative, but I think there was there's positivity in it, right? Like, if you like something, go into it, go hard. And you may not have that following in the beginning. You may not have people that believe in you. You may not be that ideal leader. But if you just if you remain consistent at it, and just continue to do it, then eventually people will follow you. and then you'll find yourself being that transformational person. So.
Yeah, I agree, Pizzle, KP. I look back on my journey and I don't know, it's kind of opposite of what KG is saying, which is always focusing on others. And I think that is an important point to get to, but it really depends on where your journey begins, right? Because if you are coming from a culture or a community of people that don't consistently reach, your thought may not always, in order to change that about you, or in order to change your trajectory, your focus can't always be on other people. I look at many parts of my journey, and to be honest, I worked my behind off and did things that were extra than my peers because I wanted to be proud of me, and that was my motivation for a very, very long time. There was a vision that I had for me, and just because others around me didn't share it for me or for them, it really didn't impact me. I knew that I wasn't comfortable with the trajectory, with the path that my community set for me, or that my school set for me. And I knew that I had more in me, or I was willing to work to become better, to have a different outcome. And I look at that from going, to my elementary and middle school and public school, and going to New Jersey Seeds, where I wound up eventually meeting Malcolm in phase 3, which is after being, having 2 very serious cuts among children who couldn't perform to the expectations at 11, 12 years old. Getting up and doing extra work, going, hopping on the bus for 2.5 hours every day in the summertime, while everyone else is, like Malcolm saying, over break, they're chilling. Having that vision for myself at 12 years old enabled me to, make those sacrifices, which then gave me other opportunities. And while most of my peers were then going to, our neighborhood high school, which is, 100 yards from our middle school, I packed my stuff up and went maybe an hour or so away to live at a school. And my trajectory just completely changed. And, there were many peers of mine that really didn't understand why I would make that decision, including, elder people that I looked up to. But, it's very, very important to hold the vision that you have for yourself. And eventually, you will have the opportunity to become a transformational leader, but you have to first commit to transforming yourself. And that's just my personal opinion. That's what my journey has proved to me. Focusing on other people, especially in today's society, sometimes can get you off of your game, because there are so many distractions. There's so many different ways that people, everyone with a platform has an opinion. And if you don't make the decision to be what you are going to be for you, you can get lost in the sauce, right? You can begin to follow behind other people who sound passionate, who sound convincing, who are faking the funk, who, are showing results, but they're not actually true. I was actually speaking with my wife last night, and she was explaining an article or a book that she was reading. And she was saying how the majority of wealthy people in this world, they drive vehicles like an F-150, Jeep Cherokee, Prius. And in fact, those individuals that you see driving the Lamborghinis and all of those high-end luxury cars, they usually make $250,000 or less. And, that was a highlight for me, because we live in a society where, most people are overcompensating for something. Now, I'm not saying that, individuals like Mayweather that might have a Bugatti or a Lamborghini, that their money isn't real. But I'm gonna be honest with you, like the large majority of people that we see flaunting on social media and different platforms, the money not real, and it's not sustainable. And the more and more, individuals that we have an opportunity to be around in this journey, we realize that, they're focusing on building quality amongst themselves instead of material. Their focus is not on material at all. In fact, they really don't have much use for it, because most of their time and energy is put towards growing or helping to grow others. So just to recap, I just wanted to share that, while it is important to focus on others, I think that is a stage that you get to at a later part. I think it's really important to begin to focus on growing you focusing on what your potential is, identifying your passion, and eventually in your journey you will have the opportunity to transform others. But it is very, very important, as Malcolm highlighted earlier, to be someone that, if you are in a leadership position or not, that you are transforming yourself, because that is what makes you ultimately believable and will allow your results to be more long lasting.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think you kind of took it out of context of what I said. I wasn't worrying about other people. I was talking about in terms of service for other people. Um, so yeah, that's definitely good what you said. But I just wanted to let you know. I think you kind of took it a little bit. I wasn't saying I'm just on focus on what other people think. I was just talking about my passion changed for me and it helped me be a better leader once I understood that leading just wasn't for me, it was to service for other people. So I just wanted to clarify for that.
Yeah, got you, KG. Appreciate it.
And one thing to piggyback off that, just I heard somebody say, and I have I keep quotes in my phone, right? Because it's always good to keep quotes on you for later on, for inspirational purposes or whatever. But one thing that I got was you don't have to join the wave when you provide the water. And it's so true, right? Like a lot of times, like Just said, a lot of people rush towards things and, you see the person in the Lambo or DC is great for this, right? Just drive around DC in the afternoon on a Saturday, and all you see is Benz. I mean, you come to DC, all you see is nothing but Maseratis everywhere. People have very nice cars. People show a certain life as if they're at that particular level, and so many people chase it. And at the end of the day, when you realize it, it's like, you don't have to chase the wave when you provide the water, right? Like, do your own thing, rock out by yourself, and eventually those things will come. And it all kind of goes back to that following piece. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and it kind of touched on what you talked about too, Just.
And I also think that Just took that out of context, but I see why he said that. The think about other people kind of thing comes sooner for people who struggle to put in the work. Like ideally, a man who does not have a child, ideally, is going to be more inspired when he does have a child, because now it's not just about him. So now when the alarm goes off, he doesn't hit snooze, because now he really can't lose his job, because this child who cannot fend for himself literally needs you, the father, right? So that person got that extrinsic motivation from the kid. So it gives them a kick because it's about somebody else. Now, if you're intrinsically motivated, you don't need that because you get it from you. Like that's a sign of like greatness. How Jordan always says, be selfish first, get the prize, get the reward, and be selfless later. Right. So that's definitely just. Because it does say though, we did say that transformational leader is trained and transformed. So you do have to transform, which requires you to get to work. Go out there in the woods, get to it, and come back and share the spoils with everyone else. Right? Um, so, but also like something I think we were talking about this in the group chat, like something that I guess is subconscious because I always do it. Something that drives me, even though I'm already extremely intrinsically motivated. I say what I'm doing to a lot of people. Most people don't do that. Even super driven people don't do that because it leaves them out. When you say you're going to do it to other people, you got to do it. At least if you care about your name, you care about your reputation, if you want them to trust your word, if you want them to continue to be loyal to you, right? Um, but also, what I do know about Just too, even though he took that more or less about me approach first, in his most vulnerable moments, I've seen Just super angry, super vulnerable. This is not for me, Mal. This is not for me. Everything I do, this is not for me. So even though he's saying that BS, he's still driven by other people. And now it took time for those relationships to be established and those people to show their colors, for them to be held in that regard to him. And during that time, he was working not for them. He still does not work for them. He does things for him. But it does feed him by serving those people that he subconsciously does work for, and he allows to share the spoils of his hard work. So it's all about like a timing thing. But I believe like those people who just chilling, they just relaxing and they're not thinking about the future. They thinking about them. I did all this hard work and I earned this break. You may have, you may have. But if you truly, truly want to set it up for your family, your friends, those who you care about, what you do in that obligated time is not enough. It may be a lot. Like last week when we talked about Shaq. Shaq was killing. He was absolutely dominant. But he self admits that he was complacent. He survived off of talent. So he left some on the table. So more or less the 500 million he made, he probably could have made double that. Who knows? The 4 championships he won, maybe he could have won 8. Maybe being a first ballot Hall of Famer turns into the highest voted Hall of Famer. There was more that he left on the table because a lot of it was about him. Oh, I'm doing enough. Look at my MVPs. Look at what I've done to the team, as opposed to making it about other people. Oh, being open-minded, like we talked about last week, I think it was. Maybe I can do a little bit more, and maybe I can average 35 instead of 30. Maybe I'll get this next big check and I can donate it to the XYZ. So there is a big part of self for intrinsically driven people because they're driven by them. But then those are often the people that at the end, when their drive brings them results, like a Bill Gates, everything turns into other people. They like make up for the time that they spent on themselves by now completely turning that drive outwardly. So I do think Just took it out of context, but at the same time, I don't. At the same time, I don't. I do understand. Any thoughts come up from that, KG? Just
No, yeah, I definitely agree with what you were just saying. I was just talking about where I am in my life currently. Because obviously I had to sacrifice. I had to put myself first in order to even be able to be seen as that person that can lead, right? And like I said, like I feel you on. I had to do this. I went to this school. I left you know what I'm saying? So I definitely put myself in a position to lead, right? And I still have things that I want to do, but a lot of things that I do things for or to help other people uh, and serve other people to get through things that I struggled to get through because I didn't have people there. So I know that's something in my life and accompanied with people like just being attracted to being around me. That's something that is extremely huge for me. How can I use my ability that was given to serve people? I definitely understand. I had to get to a point where I had to learn about myself. I had to put in the work about doing this, right? And obviously that's a day-to-day process. But at the same time, now I'm in a journey where I want to share that sugar and and help others, right? Because I help myself, and my whole life, people have always shared like random information with me, like in personal information, just because I guess I had an aura and an energy that like it's okay that I'm welcoming. So I just use that to something that that fuels me, that comes pretty natural to me is working with others.
Yeah, I completely understand, everyone's responses. I guess I would just kind of share that both perspectives can exist simultaneously. All right. Meaning that, and just to give context to the reason, and if you kind of go back to listen to why I started that part of the piece about focusing on yourself, is that if you are in a community or if you are in an environment where there is stillness, there's complacency, there is no one reaching for their potential or to maximize their potential, you can't look outward. Like that, the motivation is not there. And that's, I believe, more so where our audience and where people that come to look for help or support or other forms of influence, that is an environment that they are existing in. Because if that's the case, they wouldn't be looking other places for support, for influence, right? And I'm just saying that that is an environment that I came up in. And my way of changing that reality was focusing inward. I can't get what I'm looking for outward, right? I mean, for some reason, people don't see that this is a bad situation. Like this is whoa. And this is before social media. I mean, I could just only thank God for putting a feeling, a vision in me that this can't be the max. You understand? And I'm not talking about eating lavish. I'm not talking about going on private jets. I'm not talking about any of those things. But I'm just talking about like, this can't be the cycle of life right here, right? And I'm not talking about growing up in a neighborhood that's like Baghdad or, you understand, third world conditions. I'm just talking about like normal everyday stuff. I just knew that for me internally that there was something else that I wanted that was going to fulfill me, even though at a young age, like 10, 11, 12 years old, I hadn't identified exactly what that thing or what that reality was. I just knew that it was more than what my surroundings offered me. So I was willing to do extra work. I was willing to, for my brother, my mom and my dad that I grew up in the house with, they will tell you. I had to be a leader in my own right when it came to studying, right? For some reason, the type of learner that I am, I did need it to be quiet. And for some reason, individuals in my home did not understand that I needed it to be quiet when it was time to study. And being a 9, 8, 7-year-old, standing toe to toe with every other, I'm the baby in the house, but like making a very, very firm stance. Like, I need y'all to go in y'all rooms and shut the door, be quiet, because I'm in here studying. Like, I understand that this is my passport. Could I articulate it at that time? No, I couldn't, right? But I knew that it was going to be an opportunity that maybe could separate me, because I didn't see it, academics or school being something that others in my community really took very, very seriously. But I also understood that the people that were in leadership roles in different environments that I went into, they knew something that other people didn't know. That's the reason why people leaned in to listen, right? I'm talking about people that go to church. I'm talking about people that are coached by other people. Your coach knows something that you don't know. That's why you're allowing him to lead you. Your pastor, he knows something about faith, about God that you don't know. That's why you're allowing him to lead you. A relationship counselor, they know something about more successful relationships, right? Like every individual that you allow yourself to be led by, they know something that you don't know, which means that they had to dedicate time, separate, create distance, maybe from other individuals in their circle, to allow themselves to be someone different, to be able to offer something different. So I don't want the message to get mixed. And I do want to echo that both can exist. There are people who are intrinsically motivated, like myself, like Malcolm, like all of us on this call. Nobody came to our door to help us, right? There was a fire, a desire, a passion that we had ourselves that we, went forward and began to act on. And also along the journey, we realized that because we elevated or grew from the person that we were, other people were giving us signs that we had a calling that we could impact others. But I very rarely believe that an 11, 12-year-old or a child knows that their calling or their purpose is to impact others. But that is eventually a place that you get to that other people make it very, very clear. And I'm using the age at 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, because those are very transformational years amongst young people, which is middle school, right? All of us have had experience with, number one, being that age. Number two, we've all worked in school environment that has supported middle schoolers. And the more that I go back on my educational career and my journey, I realize that 9 out of 10 times I can pinpoint the student that's going to be successful in high school and college based on their performance in middle school, right? Because if you don't have a clear identification on what your trajectory is, By the time you leave middle school, ooh, the wolves are coming out in high school. Boy, you understand? It's no different than allowing somebody to hang out on the street without a curfew at 13 years old. I mean, the world is going to pull them. And if they're not clear about what their standards or what their expectations are for themselves, I mean, we know what society has to offer us. And we know it's not positive if we're just going to be 1,000% honest, right? So, yeah, I want to urge those who are listening that are intrinsically motivated. If you see yourself having a different desire, I mean, feed it, man. I mean, don't look outward. Don't look for other individuals in your community to give you confirmation. I mean, know it within yourself. You don't need confirmation from those that you are not trying to be like. You understand? What you want to do is you want to have confirmation from those individuals, or continue to seek to mirror yourself or your identity from those people that you are reaching to be like. So eventually you become a peer of theirs. And that doesn't have nothing to do with age, right? Because Kobe became a peer of Jordan and Jordan was on his way out of the league. But I'm very, very confident that Kobe had a very, very clear vision for himself, an intrinsically motivated vision for himself that allowed him to even be on the court with his idol, right? And of course, look at what Kobe was able to do to impact everyone else, including all his teammates, his family, the city of LA, and all of the other young children and people that followed him along his journey from Lower Merion High School as a high school athlete, right? It does become others, and like Malcolm, I know time, like Malcolm, and I will confirm, he's seen me at extremely vulnerable moments, right? All the work that I do is not for me. I don't require much. Boy, I don't require much. And I'm talking about, material needs, environmental need. Like, I don't really require much. I've been so tunnel vision for so long that during the time when people were building up these habits of, like, you know, wanting things, me and Malcolm were in a school community where the people that own private jets and were going to Jamaica for the weekend and were showing up at award shows, I was just telling my wife the other night, I mean, those people had 6 shirts in their closet. You understand? I mean, 6, that's it. They had 3 pair of pants for the school year. They were focusing on growing and improving themselves, right? Meanwhile, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I know that coming from a more middle class, lower class community, I mean, you go in people's closets, boy. Whew. You open, it's this door, it's that door, sneakers stacked up. Dang, right? But you're not even worth the balanced total of the stuff that's in your closet. And that's no shade or anything, but these are just honest and real conversations, right? Why is what you are buying worth more than what you have to offer or what you've, built yourself to become? So I don't want to ramble. I don't want to also change the trajectory of the conversation, but I do want to just I wanted to clarify that and understand that both, for those listening, that both positions and both perspectives can exist, because I think both people that are intrinsically motivated and extrinsically motivated both get to the same place.
Nah, that was good, very good perspective, and I was like, that's what it's all about. Because the key, especially for a kid, like being this kind of leader that we're talking about, is adding value. So the best way that you can add value at first, going back to the is it about others or is it about me topic, is don't be a burden. Don't be a burden. Like when we got sent away to school, none of us got a call, none of our parents got a call back saying that KG is in the dorm hitting backflips and knocking people out. Miss Sinclair didn't get a call that just is stealing money from students. My mom didn't get a call that I was getting all F's and I wasn't prepared. And as we can see, like at least for me and Just, our fellow peers, the African American boys, who didn't really come from polished backgrounds, like a Tariq, he did great in life, or like a Paul, he did great in life. But some other dude that I won't name, they didn't take advantage of the opportunity. They're a burden, right? Kobe didn't even start at first. He was thought to be a burden. So they did have to develop first so they're not a burden. Or even in a relationship, if you as a man, her as a woman, or whatever kind of setup that different people got, if you not good first, the relationship is not going to be good. So you have to do you first, 100%, right? Now, whatever the source of that is, if it's intrinsic, it comes from you, do you. But by you doing you, you're not being a burden to other people. And this is from a kid growing up to an adult, right? But then even as a kid, even as an adult, when your time comes and God takes you away, are you going to be a burden and leave liabilities? Who's going to pick up this mortgage? Who's going to pick up this credit card bill? Who's going to, I'm sure probably Pizzle and Jess, y'all know much more examples than I can think of. But who's going to pick up all of this trash that this mom, this dad, this parent, guardian, grandma, whoever left on the plate, as opposed to who's going to go to the bank and sign their name on the trust and get all the assets out? Or, dang, I went to the bank to get the assets, and Pop says we can't get them until we get the LLC going because he gave us a plan on how to get our credits and deductions. So when we do take an L, because we never did it before, we can get the bread right back, right? So don't be a burden. That's a big key. So if that source is other people, cool, use other people. But the best impact on other people, I do agree with Justin. KG's kind of saying the same thing, is you got to do it first. Right? LeBron been putting in work since Lord knows, since 8, 7, 6, 5, whenever, to get to the point to where he's impacting all these people. E.T. always talks about his story. It took him 12 years. He was not being homeless. He was homeless, eating out of trash cans, everything else. Now he travels the world just telling his story and sharing his gems, and he's literally changing people. I think that'll be the topic next week, how we can find different sources of energy, but at one point, he single-handedly changed my life. But that's because he poured into himself first. But then by you got to fill up first. But then once you get to a point, you got to pour it out. So you got more room to fill up. Right? If your goal is to make it to 100 G's first, all right, 100 G's, they say, is the easy part. You feel me? But then you got to get to an M. So you got to pour out what you knew and adjust. You're not going for 10% gains no more. You might be going for 2. Because that 2% is 5 G's instead of 2% off of $100, whatever the case may be. So just did bring up a good point that needs to be clear for other people. So step 1 is don't be a burden. And if you're not adding value, you a burden. If you're not changing the game, you a burden. That's fine. But find a way to set yourself up to make those sacrifices, like Just said we did. 7th grade, going to school at home in poverty, catch that bus to Princeton or just Pingree, maybe where you went, to Pingree or these different boarding schools on a Saturday to go do some extra stuff that everybody else is not doing, right? And go to school again, Monday through Friday, do all your work, and go Saturday again, and then go to school all week during the summer. And we still playing football, we still playing basketball, we still playing baseball, we still doing our regular schools and regular family stuff. Then do it again 8th grade. And then 8th grade, go Monday and don't come back home till Friday. Or like me and KG, we would have to leave, go to our game, then drive all the way back, carry all this stuff to go back to campus, then do it again 2 days on Thursday, right? At the same time, I don't want to leave this out. Our parents most definitely, they didn't do it for them. They did that for us, which I think is 100% obvious now. But also it's 100% obvious now. We were all pushed back and say, yo, I love what you did, and I would want you to do it again. But at the same time, I would want you to pour into you. Because you poured so much into me that this was empty after a while. You ain't have nothing left. And then it came to a point when school wasn't the answer, and I needed mom, dad, parent, uncle, guardian, and you ain't have nothing left because you didn't pour into you. So I just want to make it clear, I guess speaking for all 4 of us, that you do kind of got to be a little selfish first so you can transform. If you never transform, you can only teach. You can't model, right? You'll be that backup quarterback who may be the best coach ever. But when you show film to your team, you're going to show film of the starter that you played with all those years and learned from, right? Jordan can't coach. You feel me? Jordan, just go drop 50. That's all you got to do. Everybody can't do that. But I'm sure somebody on that team or all these other coaches, they're showing what Jordan was doing, right? So you got to pour into yourself before you pour into other people. So if people ain't following you, that means they're not seeing the value that you add. So something has to change. What y'all thinking?
Yeah, oh, my bad, KP. I'm just gonna be quick. I think that's pretty for sure. Yeah, I can see how that what I said earlier could be misconstrued to some viewers, but no, like for sure. If you ain't right, how can you help somebody else? So it comes down to 100% and doing what's best for you, putting yourself first before you can get there so you can be in that position, right? Because those three people on the screen, they had to do the work themselves before they can even consider doing anything for other people. Because if they don't got it or if they haven't done it, just like you said, how in the hell are they going to be able to offer value to someone else? So that was definitely a good job of clarifying for what everybody said. But KP, there you go.
Appreciate it. That was good too. One thing I noticed that was said was, being poured into. I think it's very important that as you go throughout life, and especially as an adolescent, like in high school, you gotta take a little bit of pouring from everybody. And like Malk said, you gotta know the quality of that water, right? So you might get poured into a little bit at first, and then you might grow up, 2 or 3 years down the line, and that Aquafina doesn't do it for you anymore. Now you need the alkaline water, right? And you get poured into from somebody else, and you take the advice from that person, and you build into it, right? So don't be afraid to go out there and be poured into and know exactly what water is best for you as you continue to go throughout your journey.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to speak real quick to the burden part, right? Boy, that's like a heavy one for me because for me personally, I seen the reality of other adults being burdens for like the large majority of my life, and I couldn't really put a word on it. But I watched my dad be the lead, for the entirety of my life, and from putting pieces of the puzzle together. He served in that role for much longer from before I was alive. But I mean, I don't really think that people understand the harm that they cause by being a burden, by not meeting their potential, by not standing on their own 2 feet, right? The pressure that they put on other people is immense. It's immense. It is almost, words cannot describe it. But I would say one analogy is something I heard from Steve Harvey, which is a cricket has like a 40-inch vertical or something ridiculously high, okay? But if you put that cricket inside of a mason jar, he will jump. He gonna hit the ceiling. Jump, he gonna hit the ceiling. And eventually, he'll only jump to under the height of the lid, right? He has the ability, or it has the ability to jump even higher. But the more and more that people or the environment presses down on this individual, or this cricket in this case, they no longer can show their ability. And for many individuals that are seeking to be transformed, or they're going through this journey of becoming a better person, or someone that they are proud of, it's important to know who those individuals are that continue to press you down. And sometimes, there's a series of tough decisions and tough conversations you got to have with yourself and those individuals to remind them and to remind yourself why you began on the journey that you have gotten it on, so that you can reach your maximum potential of jumping through the roof. Okay. And I'm only saying that because, my dad never really got a chance to see that very clearly until it was a little bit too late. And if you guys know how that journey ended or that story ended, he's no longer here. And for me, one of the biggest things that I'm thankful for in this life is vision and being able to be wise versus smart, right? And for those individuals that don't know that, that is a normal conversation amongst us in this group. But, smart people learn from their own decisions and mistakes. Wise people learn from others' decisions and mistakes. And, watching a series of people, not just my dad, watching, almost every individual adult that I've gotten in contact with in my life, I see them holistically. And I make a decision on whether, there are things that I want to pull from them that would aid in my journey or not. And I learned from many things that I was shown in that regard from my dad, that there are things that he showed me that I know that I don't want to be, that I'm not willing to sign up for. And that comes with a heavy heart, right? Because I do have a really, really big heart. And for individuals that want to be leaders, I mean, you have a heart for people. One of the main things in this list that sticks with me is you love the people that you lead. Oh man. Like as Malcolm, ranted and said, like, he's caught me at vulnerable moments. Like, this is not for me. It's not. I don't need it. I don't need anything. Right. I've gotten to a place where I can provide and I can, it's not about finance, not just providing financially, but provide like mindset, provide pathways, provide opportunities, provide direction. I mean, that wasn't for me. I only got that because I bust through the door. Right? If I was worried about me only, I mean, oh man, you take the parachute off somebody's back, oh, they out of there, right? But the reality of it is that when you have a love for people, there's a very thin line between you not meeting your expectations and your help me with the word, y'all. Your potential, right? There's a very thin line. And I'm speaking, for individuals that don't have a collective community around them of people that are doing the same thing. I just think it's really, really important not to be a burden. And for me personally, I'll share this part of my journey. When I decided to leave the house at 12 years old to start on that journey for New Jersey Seeds and ultimately move out, I made a deal with me never to move back in. Never. I don't care what you got to do. I don't care if you got to stay with a friend. I don't care if you got to do whatever, right? Every summer after that, I either got an internship where they gave me housing or something, right? Or I went to a camp where I could stay overnight or something, right? And it was nothing against my family because obviously my family fed me to get to a point where I could be prepared for an opportunity like the ones that I did. But I understood that watching my parents go through the journey that they did in life, they could blossom more without, I don't want to say me as the burden because I was still a child, but without the daily responsibility of me. You understand? And I guess that was just the wisdom of being able to see it through that lens. And for those who don't understand the analogy of burning the boats, right? It's important when you make a decision to step out to burn your boats, right? Watch the movie Troy. The analogy, symbolizes the fact that when you make a desire or you make a decision to overcome something or to achieve something, when you burn your boats, you give yourself no option to go back to what you left. All right, there's no way to escape this fight. And if fight or flight kicks in, human nature will allow you to dominate and meet every expectation because you don't have the ability to retreat. Okay. And when me, Malcolm, and KG went, and even KP went to another high school that was afforded than most of our peers. I mean, fight or flight really had to kick in for a 14-year-old. I mean, there was a reason why we wanted that other opportunity. We weren't willing to go back to the other opportunity. And even though it was hard, I mean, me and Malcolm are very, very close friends because I struggle as a student. right? The help that he was getting from Myron, I mean, Malcolm's pouring into me. Boy, am I thankful, right? But it's just important not to give yourself at any stage of your life. I don't care if you're an adult in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, right? The game is not over for you. Burn your boats, though, right? I mean, it's really, really important for you not to give yourself an opportunity to go back to the person that or the environment that you are not satisfied in. So I'll give you all the opportunity to jump in and either take it further or kind of clarify.
Fellas? Huh? One thing that I heard you say, Just, is that I don't require anything. I meaning Just talking about himself. But I'm very similar. But at the same time, I don't require anything, but I require everything. Like, I don't require anything but everything you got. Right? Otherwise, you can't be on my team. It goes directly into like what Bill Belichick teaches: do your job. Right? I'm playing. This is going to be super football league, but I'm playing corner. I don't need you. Right? I got this. However, I need everything you got because when that scene turns into a post so that we win, I need you to be it. You don't have to do my job. I got this. I just want to win. I ain't tripping off the contract as long as I can feed my family. Boom, boom, pow. But I need everything you got. Because one thing I do know about you, Just, you not giving somebody the time of day if you don't believe in them, bro. They're gone. You ain't gonna be disrespectful or nothing like that. You're just going to detach yourself from that person because I think kind of like an energy thing. Like to me, it feels unfair when I'm around people who don't give everything that they got because they're getting the results from me by pouring everything that I got. Now that result may be a C grade. It may not be the absolutely flawless performance, but it's absolutely everything that I got. So it's unfair for you to rock out with me when you leaving stuff on the table, right? So I just wanted to highlight that too. And I know last week we talked about expectations with transformational leaders set expectations for themselves more and before other people. You making that decision at 12 to never go back home. I know grown men and women 30, 40 years old who never made that commitment. And they can tell you what they want, but by them continuing to blow opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, knowing that they can go back home. Right? Now, if you home by choice or you saving money or whatever the case may be, do your thing. But I don't know too many grown men that want to be at home living with their mom or stuck at home living in a relationship they ain't cool with because they can't leave and make it by themselves. Right? So, although, speaking for myself and other people, don't require anything, but they require everything. And I also think that's a reason why people go, as we talk about inside, is to go about self and get to the other people later. You know, so by easing the burden, right? Sometimes, like Just said, you wear a natural burden at 12. Like you're gonna be a burden. Like you can't do much by yourself, bro. You know. However, you did make an adult decision. Yo, I see what's going on, so I'm gonna just ease the burden for y'all anyway. You know. So that was kind of non-linear, but that's what I thought of from what you said. Ray, with a typical Ray statement: no surrender, no retreat. Mom, you guys shared some great nuggets. Thanks for feeding me today. You're welcome. You're welcome, Mom. Ray, you already know. So any comments in closing before we go, fellas? Nope.
One thing I'll say is trust in yourself, man. You got it.
Mm-hmm. Trust in yourself. Trust in yourself. Just?
I'm losing my thought right now. But it was. Can you repeat your last point that you made?
Me?
Yeah, I think you might have wrote it down because I seen you look down.
I don't require anything, but I require everything.
Okay, and then not being in a space with people that don't identify with that. Um, I want to highlight that, you know, for some people that may be on the opposite end of that and not giving the 100% or 110%, right? It's not that individuals like me or Malcolm kind of separate ourselves because there's any kind of like superiority or anything that we feel in that relationship or in that situation. But we understand that our normal level of operation will ultimately put a strain on that relationship, right? And depending on who that individual is, especially if you love them, it's sometimes not sometimes, it is the more logical decision to just create a space between you all, right? Because normal conversation is for us or for them is not going to be able to connect. Normal thought processes, normal things that you're reaching for, right? Me and Malcolm were very, very similar because I give our ladies the Women of the Year award.
MVP award.
MVP. We are probably the hardest people to live with, and I'm sure that other highly motivated, highly not successful, but just like highly driven people, you know, their spouses or children or people they're in the house with, they feel the same thing. There's this energy, right, where like it's not okay. I know it's Sunday, and this is usually a reset day. Things of that sort, but like it is extremely uncomfortable being in the house with somebody that is always plugged in, right? And some people will call it unnatural. But I would also say, like, you know, kind of take a step back and look at all of the people whose names have lived longer than their lives, right? All of us on this call have a desire, and we are chasing legacy, whether we've identified it or not, right? I mean, LeBron comes from the Midwest, Akron, Ohio. And there is nothing, if anybody's ever been to the Midwest, if anybody's ever been to Ohio, I mean, don't get me wrong, I have very limited experience there. But I mean, it's a dreary place. It's a dreary part of the country, right? I mean, I know there's beautiful people. Obviously, there's a light beam in LeBron that has come, right? But boy, I mean, and KG has lived in the Midwest and Michigan before. I mean, there's not many signs of life throughout the entire calendar year, right? And if you are born with a light beam, if you are born with a fire and desire, sometimes you have to change your environment. And for young people and older people that are listening to this call, I mean, school is your passport. I would love if I was 50 years old and I didn't find myself to become an undergraduate student somewhere in another part of the country. Take a loan out, live in a dorm, get a cheap apartment, whatever it is. Like, school is your way to transplant on somebody else's dollar, basically, right? Look at all of us. I mean, coming out of high school, you are broke. There's no more. There's no more broke than you'll ever be in your life, really, at that point of being a student. You went on somebody else's dime, whether it was grants, loans, or you had family members that could help foot the bill of some sort. But I mean, logically, most Americans don't have $50,000, $40,000 a year to foot it. So everybody's getting footed by the government or grants, right? But I mean, those are transformational years, and your community changes instantly. Expectations change instantly. The food that you're offered changes instantly, right? Those are transformational things. And while, you know, some people are at this point now questioning whether school or college is worth the investment, I mean, I can argue the fact that maybe academically is not worth the investment, but socially and mentally and environmentally wise, it's a bargain price, to be honest with you. Depending on what community you're coming from, that's a bargain. $30,000 a year times 4, $120,000 to change your environment for 4 years. You will become a different individual for $120,000. But you're gonna go put your name on a 2021 Sentra that's gonna cost you $25,000. Which you're going to get caught in a lease or something else and continue that until you're over $100,000 in debt, or you're going to buy a home that's going to wind up depreciating because we're headed for a pop or a bubble burst, right? Or you're going to run up credit card debt. for your closet that we talked about earlier, of shoes and clothes, right? I mean, you're going to hit that $100,000 in debt. You're going to. I mean, fast track it though, right? And environment is very, very important. I know we got to go, but environment is very, very important. All of us on this call have become a part of an environment that was different from our normal environment that we grew up in, which I believe is hugely impactful on why we became different, right? I mean, but we are animals at our nature. We interact with our environment. And I mean, KG, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall with your experience, going through your trajectory of boarding school to Richmond to the NFL and multiple different teams and cities. Like, I mean, your environment changed, and I seen it. I mean, I seen it in you. I mean, that was a beautiful thing, and I would just offer to those on the call, man, like, do your best to change your environment if your environment isn't feeding you. We can do our best to get fed through these conversations, through books, through YouTube videos, through seminars, through all of these different things. But I mean, if you humble yourself to being in a maybe lower your living expenses and live in a more motivated or fruitful environment, man, it will change your trajectory. Last thing I'm going to say, Malcolm, tell me if you remember the statement on why I was excited to move in with you guys in DC.
It was more so something about the energy, being around people doing stuff. You wasn't alone anymore. Something along those lines.
Yeah. So coming from Brown, I was in grad school at Brown. I was interviewing, taking the mega bus down from Rhode Island to DC, like every other week to interview, looking for opportunities. I would stay on Malcolm's couch. And every single day that I was there on that couch, I mean, Ray was up, out the building. Our other homeboy up, out the house. Malcolm up, out the house. Right? I'm operating on my own up in Rhode Island. I'm thinking I'm getting to it. And I seen that there was a place, this was a home that I could come and get fed from those individuals that were motivated and still reaching for something. That was an amazing feeling because I had been working on my own cup. It gave me an opportunity to be poured. Just being in that home with you all, right? All of us made enough money to live on our own, though. Right? There was a benefit of living together, though, that was very different than financial, and that environment that we, humbled ourselves to be in produced much fruit because we could see it from that lens.
100%.
You guys got anything to wrap up?
Dizzle, KG? No? All right. Well, just to capitalize off of what Jess said, that is something too that always sticks with me. A little bit different, but everybody that's ever lived with you and I as roommates always talk about how we inspired them by just doing what we do. Like, dang, I hear Mount footsteps coming down the hallway. Gotta get up. Well, I know Jess came home. He changed his clothes. Went right back to the gym. I gotta work out. And dang, I got all this KFC meal, and they got a whatever veggie meal. I gotta eat healthier. So closing words is that an environment will change a person far quicker than a person will change an environment. An environment will change a person far quicker than a person will change an environment. Have a great week. Don't be trained, be transformational. Peace out.